A notification suddenly popped up in the private Facebook group for our condo building. My son is getting married next week. I expect a wedding gift of $1,000 from each neighbor. The post continued. To all neighbors with cars valued over $75,000, please have a full tank of gas and assemble in the lobby at 2 a.m. next Sunday. You will be part of the wedding fleet to pick up the bride. I will be sending friend requests to all homeowners. Please accept them promptly so you can Venmo me the gift money. Oh, and one more thing. Will all the attractive, single women in the building please private message me a photo? I will be selecting 2 of you to be bridesmaids. The author of this insanity, a user named Kevin Miller, had tagged at everyone in the post. The funny thing was, he wasn't even an admin. He just typed out the tag manually. The last message, however, was a direct tag to my profile and a few others. A moment later, a friend request from him hit my inbox. I hit decline and typed a comment on his post. Don't confuse audacity with invincibility. Knock, knock, knock. The sound wasn't a knock. It was a furious pounding on my front door. I pulled up the feed from my Ring camera. A middle-aged man was hammering his fist against my steel door, his face a mask of indignation. Open up, he yelled, his voice muffled but clear. Why didn't you accept my friend request? Hurry up and send the money. I've collected from the whole building. You're the only one left. Wow, my reinforced security door wasn't half as thick as this guy's skin. This was a luxury high-rise. Maybe some of my neighbors wouldn't sweat $1,000, but I wasn't about to enable this kind of behavior. I activated the two-way talk feature on my doorbell. $1,000 is too little, I said, my voice dripping with saccharine sweetness. How about I give you $10,000, and I'll throw in a car, too? How does that sound? The man's face lit up. Yes, great. I'll take that black Mercedes you've been driving. I don't want that white Volkswagen, though. I pulled out my phone and, for the show of it, sent him a friend request myself. He accepted instantly. A moment later, I sent him a message. Sent. Check your account. Now that's more like it. I forgive you. What the hell? You sent me a sticker. The man outside, realizing he'd been had, started roaring. Geez, I said into the speaker. Don't you know Venmo has a weekly transfer limit of $5,000? You can't send 10,000 at once. Did you really fall for a Photoshop screenshot? Get out here. You made a promise. You owe me $10,000 in a car, and I'm not leaving until I get it, he bellowed, his voice cracking with rage. I had a laugh at his shamelessness. I pulled out my phone again, this time to text 911. Fine, I said, my voice full of insincere promise. I'm sending it for real this time. I sent him 4 more images, each one a slickly edited screenshot of a fake payment confirmation. There, for payments of $2,000, one of $2,000. That should do it. God damn it. They're all stickers. Hidden behind my door, I was laughing so hard I could barely breathe. I'd always heard that a surprising number of people were functionally stupid, only passing for normal because they could manage basic life tasks. Seeing it in person was a true revelation. Bang, bang, bang. The man was now trying to break the door down, screaming for his gift money. I didn't even know him. What on earth did his son's wedding have to do with me? Ignoring the racket, I calmly waited for the police to arrive. Officer, thank God you're here, the man shouted, seeing them as his saviors. The woman in this apartment owes me money and refuses to pay. Wait, didn't a woman call this in? One of the officers asked, confused. I quickly opened the door before the man could spin any more lies. I'm the one who called. I laid out the entire story for the 2 officers. They listened, their expressions a mixture of disbelief and weary resignation. The man, Kevin, stood by wringing his hands. Officers, he said, his voice dripping with self-righteousness. We're all neighbors here. What's wrong with me wanting to share some good news? Besides, I gave her a heads up. She's obligated to give me the gift. She even promised $10,000 in a car. Doesn't that count as a debt she owes me? One of the officers' mouths twitched. Sir, it's 11 p.m. Your behavior constitutes a public disturbance. As for the gift money, this woman doesn't know you. She has absolutely no obligation to contribute to your son's wedding. After dressing down Kevin, the officer turned to me. Ma'am, if he continues to harass you, please call us immediately. I nodded. And you, he said, pointing a stern finger at Kevin. You're not to bother her or anyone else about this again. Do you understand? With that final warning, the police turned and left. As he walked away, Kevin shot me a look over his shoulder and muttered, "You just wait." A little while later, just as I was drifting off to sleep, a new noise started. A rhythmic thumping on my ceiling, the sound of someone jumping up and down, and a cacophony of scraping and banging. So the psycho lived directly above me. My phone buzzed. It was a message from Kevin. Learned your lesson yet? Send the money in the car, or you'll never get a night's sleep in this apartment again. I shot out of bed. I grabbed a cardboard box and some soundproofing foam I had from a recent project and carefully wrapped a new Bluetooth speaker I just bought, leaving only a small opening for the sound to escape. I then used a tension rod to press my newly created sonic weapon firmly against the ceiling. The beauty of this setup was that it would be almost inaudible to any other neighbor. The sound would travel directly upward, delivering a private concert exclusively for the residents of 801. I opened Spotify and put a playlist on loop, Scandinavian death metal. A moment later, my phone buzzed with a 60-second tirade of a voice memo from Kevin. That was iMessage's limit, not his. I calmly turned the speaker's volume up one notch, put in my earplugs, and blissfully went to sleep, ignoring the stream of vitriol vibrating on my nightstand. The next morning, I ran in my next-door neighbor at the elevator. She was a woman about my age. "Are you okay?" she asked, her eyes full of sympathy. "That family upstairs. They're a real piece of work. You too. Not just me. No one in this building isn't afraid of him." She sighed, a look of shared trauma on her face. "So you all actually gave him the money?" I asked, incredulous. "This is a nice building. Some people don't care about the money, but most are just too scared to say no. Their tactics are disgusting," she continued. "Even calling the cops doesn't do much." The woman introduced herself as Sarah. She'd lived here for a year and told me the man who'd been banging on my door was Kevin Miller, and his wife's name was Karen. "You have no idea how awful they are," Sarah said, getting more agitated as she spoke. She pulled out her phone and started scrolling through old messages. She showed me the first one from Kevin. "Hi, I'm your new neighbor in 801. Just moved in yesterday. Look forward to getting to know you. Welcome to the building. Let us know if you need anything," Sarah had replied politely. "Great. We're having a housewarming party tomorrow and would be honored if you'd attend. The gift contribution is $200. Sarah, of course, refused. For the next week, Kevin and his family tormented her. They dumped trash in front of her door, blocked her path in the lobby, and even followed her on her way to work. "Chloe, I'm a single woman living alone. I was terrified," Sarah said with a bitter laugh. "In the end, I just gave them the money." According to Sarah, countless others had been bullied into paying up with similar tactics. On the day of the housewarming party, the Millers had the gall to set up a folding table in the building's communal courtyard and serve everyone. A single party platter of sliders from White Castle. For 14 guests. Their excuse? Eating less is good for your health. "That is infuriating," I seethed. "Don't you worry, Sarah. I'll get revenge for you." Ding! The elevator doors opened. "Chloe," Sarah gasped, shrinking behind me. Standing in the doorway was Kevin Miller and a sour-faced, middle-aged woman who could only be his wife, Karen. "There you are, you little liar," Kevin shouted. "I finally got you, you little bitch. You're giving me that money in the car today, or you're not going anywhere," Kevin yelled. Karen stood beside him, arms crossed, glaring daggers at me. "We told you my son is getting married next week. Why won't you pay? Have you no manners at all?" Karen chimed in, her voice a shrill whine. "Such a pretty face, wasted. Living in a place like this at your age, I can't imagine how many men you had to sleep with." It was true what they say. Birds of a feather flock together. They were a perfect match. "Wow, I was wondering where the sewer backed up," I said, theatrically pinching my nose. "Turns out it was all in your mouth. No wonder it stinks in here. How dare you talk to my wife like that?" Kevin lunged. "I'm not just talking to her. I'm talking to you. What kind of freak are you? You think just because you tell me to give you money, I have to? If you went to the White House tomorrow and demanded it, do you think they'd just hand over the keys? If you're sick, go to a doctor. I'm not the one you should be talking to." Unleashing that felt incredible. "You," Kevin spluttered, pointing a trembling finger at me, too enraged to form a sentence. He lunged forward, his hands reaching for my hair. I ducked under his arms and brought the heel of my shoe down, hard, on his instep. I was wearing stilettos today. I bet that felt fantastic. "Art." A sound like a pig being slaughtered echoed through the elevator lobby. "She's attacking him. I'm calling the police." Karen shrieked, fumbling for her phone. When the police arrived, they reviewed the security footage from the elevator. It clearly showed Kevin blocking my exit and then attempting to physically assault me. In the end, Kevin and Karen were fined $500 and ordered to apologize to me. "I'm sorry," Kevin gritted out, clutching his foot. I ignored him completely, gave my head a defiant toss, and pulled Sarah along with me, striding proudly right between the two of them. From a venomous look in their eyes, I knew this was far from over. My premonition came true sooner than I expected. After dinner, they were back at my door. 701. "We've decided we don't want the gift money or the car anymore," Kevin announced magnanimously through the door. "What new scheme was this? See? We don't want your money or your car. We're saving you a huge expense." And I called back. And so, you have to be a bridesmaid in the wedding, Karen's voice piped up. Also, we have family coming to stay next week. Your apartment is so big, and it's a waste for just one person. You should let our relatives stay here. They don't like strangers, so you could just get a hotel room for yourself. Why on earth would I be a bridesmaid? And why would I let your relatives stay in my home? We're neighbors. What's wrong with helping out? Besides, hotels are so expensive, Kevin said, as if it were the most reasonable request in the world. Where do you get the nerve? I laughed, the sound sharp and humorless. Is your audacity on a subscription plan? What is wrong with you? We're being so generous here. We're only asking you to be a bridesmaid because you're halfway decent looking. Most girls would kill for the chance to be in our family's wedding. Fine, we'll do you another favor. We'll even give you a $5 bill and a card. For good luck. $5? I was truly speechless. You young people are so obsessed with money, Kevin said, his tone dripping with disappointment. A wedding is about celebrating, not making a profit. Get lost, I snapped. I'm calling the cops. Never argue with an idiot. They'll drag you down to their level and beat you with experience. You little snitch. All you know how to do is call the police. I don't care. My relatives are arriving in a few days, and you'll give them your apartment. If you don't, you'll regret it. My words must have spooked him. He spat one last threat, grabbed Karen, and scurried away. I immediately picked up my phone. Hey, Aunt Carol, it's me. Isn't Leo on summer break? Tell him to come stay with me for a while. Threaten me? Try to take over my home? Fine. They had no idea I was about to summon the final boss. Leo is my cousin. He's 17. Unlike most guys his age, he has a clinical diagnosis for intermittent explosive disorder. That, plus being a minor, gives him a certain immunity. I was curious to see what kind of fresh hell Kevin Miller and his family were planning to unleash next. Trouble started the day I picked Leo up from Union Station. When we got back to my apartment, the smart lock on my door refused my fingerprint. The screen read, "Too many failed attempts. Please try again in 24 hours. I checked the Ring camera history. The footage showed a shifty figure in a hoodie and mask repeatedly entering the wrong code at my door. From the build, it was undoubtedly Kevin. I grabbed Leo and marched straight up to 801. Did you mess with my lock? I demanded. Don't you dare accuse an innocent man, Kevin said, cracking his door open and smirking. What's wrong? Can't get into your own home? Like I said, you should just get a hotel. Who knows? Maybe you won't be able to get in tomorrow, either. Seeing him deny it so brazenly, I fought back my rage. I can let this go this time, but it can never happen again. Kevin must have mistaken my restraint for weakness. He puffed out his chest. You know, my son's wedding is still short one bridesmaid, and my relatives are coming in 2 days. If some kind soul were to lend them their apartment. I cut him off, my voice like ice. You can forget about it. I'm not being a bridesmaid in your joke of a wedding, and I am damn sure not letting your family anywhere near my apartment. Kevin's face darkened. So, there's nothing to talk about, then? You'll regret this. I'd book that hotel by the month, if I were you. He started to slam the door. Leo's hand shot out, stopping the door cold. Get lost, you little punk. Kevin roared, unable to close the door. He was right. There was nothing left to talk about. I had given them a chance, and they'd mistaken it for cowardice. Leo's disorder made him easily provoked, especially when it came to someone threatening me. BM, Leo shoved Kevin backward into his apartment, then slammed him to the floor. Who the hell were you just telling to get lost? He snarled, pinning him down. Leo has always been a great cousin, a great protector. He's never aggressive with friends or family. His fury is reserved for bullies. For some reason, the bullies he dealt with always called him a psycho. The name was meant as an insult, but Leo, ever the opportunist, leaned into it and got a formal psychiatric evaluation. It was the worst thing that ever happened to the local population of jerks. Let me go. I'm calling the cops. Kevin's yelp pulled me back to the present. Karen and their son, Kyle, heard the commotion and ran out from a bedroom. They grabbed whatever they could find, a lamp, a book, and started trying to hit Leo. I covered my eyes. The enemy wasn't just refusing to surrender. They were trying to fight back. That was it. Leo's rage meter just maxed out. A symphony of crashes and thuds followed. When I looked again, Kevin, Karen, and Kyle were lying a heap on the floor. Leo stood over them, holding a broom like a triumphant gladiator. It felt wrong, but I couldn't deny it. This was incredibly satisfying. You just wait. I'm calling the police and having you thrown in jail. Kevin gasped from the floor. This was my cue. Ahem. Do you see this? I pulled out the trump card I always carried with me. A laminated copy of Leo's psychiatric evaluation. The person who just beat you up? He's clinically diagnosed. Legally speaking, forget a beating. He could probably kill you all and not spend a day in prison. Leo, playing his part perfectly, shot them a menacing glare. Go ahead, call the cops. The most they'll do is hold him overnight. After he gets out, well, I'd be worried about what happens to you then. Okay. Our mistake. It's our unlucky day. Just get out of here. Go. Kevin, hearing this, immediately abandoned the idea of calling the police. Leo grunted, narrowing his eyes. Leave, please. I'm asking you to please leave my home at once. Kevin's tone had shifted from belligerent to begging. Hold on, Leo said, and even I was surprised by what came next. They need to pay for the hotel. He's right. I chimed in. You owe us for the hotel. Fine. Just go. I'll pay you tomorrow. Kevin shrieked, desperate to get rid of us. Since someone else was footing the bill, I didn't hold back. I booked a suite at the most luxurious hotel downtown and sent the invoice to Kevin the next day. What? What kind of hotel is this expensive? This is a ripoff. I'm not paying for this, he texted back. Really? Seemed pretty reasonable to me. I typed back coolly. Funny. You didn't think your gift money demand was too much. If you don't want to pay, I guess we can just pay you another visit tonight. I'll pay. The moment the money hit my Venmo, I went straight to our building's Facebook group. I created a post explaining where the money came from and then sent it all out, Venmoing equal shares back to every neighbor who had been forced to pay his bogus fees. The group chat exploded with thumbs-up emojis. Kevin and his family, meanwhile, went completely silent. They didn't even try to claim their share of the rebate. This was completely out of character for them. I had a bad feeling they were planning something big. It only took 2 days for my feeling to become reality. The counterattack was more vicious than I could have imagined. The moment I arrived at the school where I teach, I was called into the principal's office. He handed me a printed-out anonymous email. It accused me of promiscuous and unprofessional conduct. It claimed I was in a relationship with a high school student, Leo, while simultaneously carrying on affairs with multiple other men. The envelope also contained photos of me and Leo with our arms around each other, along with several crudely photoshopped, explicit images of me with other men. My blood boiled. I started to argue, but the principal held up a hand. Chloe, I know you, and I believe this is baseless. But the accusations are very specific, and where there's smoke, people assume there's fire. For now, I think it's best if you take some paid leave. Just like that, I was suspended. When it rains, it pours. I got back to the condo building, and as I stepped out of my car, a searing pain shot through my foot. I looked down and saw several thumbtacks embedded in the sole of my shoe, drawing blood. My eyes scanned my parking spot. It was littered with them. All 4 of my tires were flat. Ms. Ran, what's the story? A familiar, mocking voice called out. Not feeling well? Should I go get that little psycho of yours to help? Kevin Miller materialized from behind a concrete pillar. Get lost. I spat, too tired for this. Everyone look at this. Kevin announced to the handful of people walking through the garage. This is the youth of today. No manners at all. I offer to help, and she tells me to get lost. Wow, she is rude. Yeah, what a nasty thing to say. I would have told her, the world is going to hell in a handbasket. Hearing the murmurs of my neighbors, Kevin's grin widened. See? Some people think that just because they send out a few dollars in the group chat, we can't see them for who they really are. I ignored his barking and limped away. As I got out of the elevator on my floor, I was hit by a foul stench. There, right in front of my door, was a puddle of urine and a pile of feces. Dog droppings from the looks of it. I was new here and hadn't really connected with anyone besides Sarah. The only people I'd angered were the residents of 801. At that moment, a strange calm washed over me. If they wanted to play, I would play. After all, before I became a teacher, I wasn't exactly a saint myself. A big part of why Leo and I are so close is that we're the same kind of person. We both have a deep-seated intolerance for certain people in the world. The only difference is that Leo prefers to use his fists, while I prefer to use my brain. In high school, a guy wouldn't take no for an answer. After I rejected him, he started spreading vile rumors about me in our class group chat and on the school's anonymous confessions page. I worked with my friends, gathered evidence, and got him expelled. Kevin's tactics had successfully awakened that old, dormant fury. I was gonna make him pay. After taking photos of the evidence, I went inside and bandaged my foot. Chloe, I'm going up there, Leo said, his knuckles white as he saw my injury. I quickly stopped him. Leo, what did I tell you? If you go up there now, they'll just turn it around on us. They'll claim we're lashing out and blaming them without proof. He reluctantly put down the kitchen knife he grabbed. He was my cousin, after all. I couldn't actually let him go slice someone up. With my foot patched up, I pulled up the Ring camera footage with Leo. It showed a large black dog relieving itself at my door. No person ever appeared in the frame, but I could faintly hear a voice from off-camera. Go on, Lucky. Right there. That's the spot. The voice was unfamiliar. It didn't sound like Kevin or Karen. I saved the video to my phone and had Leo help me down to the security office to review the garage footage. The cameras there showed a short, paunchy, balding man loitering near my parking space. Zooming in, we could see him shaking thumbtacks out of his pocket every time he walked by. Neither video showed Kevin or his family. Was I wrong? Then it hit me. Kevin had said his relatives were coming to visit. A quick inquiry with the building management confirmed my suspicion. The day before, Kevin had registered 8 temporary guests, one of whom was noted as having a large black dog. The security guard on duty that day complained that the group had been a menace from the moment they arrived, turning the common areas into a mess. They were spitting, urinating in the planters, and tossing cigarette butts everywhere, nearly starting a fire. They also had a habit of walking around half-naked and harassing the younger female residents. Of course, his trashy relatives were just as awful as he was. The security footage proves his relatives were responsible. What are you going to do about it? I put the pressure on the property manager. We will contact the resident immediately to resolve this, the manager promised. The call was placed on speakerphone. Don't you dare make false accusations. Kevin's voice squawked through the phone. My brother-in-law was just walking by. The thumbtacks must have accidentally fallen out of his pocket. And we don't own a dog. None of our relatives do, either. It was probably some stray that has a grudge against her. Stop trying to pin everything on us. Kevin's denials left the property manager speechless. The manager looked at me helplessly. I just gave a casual wave of my hand. Kevin's stubborn refusal to admit fault was exactly what I wanted, because I planned to give him a taste of his own medicine. I sent Leo down to the garage to meticulously collect every single thumbtack. They would be useful later. I, meanwhile, waited at home. Soon enough, I heard the voice again. Go on, Lucky. Get him. Just as I thought, the owner stayed out of the camera's view, sending only the dog to do his dirty work. As the black dog trotted up to my door to defecate, the police I had called earlier descended as if from the heavens. Within seconds, the dog was apprehended. Who are you people? Why are you grabbing my dog? The owner, panicking, rushed toward my apartment, shouting, Your dog, I said sweetly. So, you're admitting you instructed him to defecate at my door? In that case, you could be arrested right along with him. The officer shot the man a hard look. No, it's not my dog. The man thought it over and decided denial was his best bet. Officer, I asked, for a stray dog like this, what's the standard procedure after you catch it? If it has injured someone, it's euthanized immediately. If not, it's usually taken to a shelter. I have a friend who absolutely adores dogs. Could she adopt him? My question stunned everyone present. I suppose that's possible, the officer replied after a moment's thought. Then he belongs to my friend now, I declared, looking directly at the dog's former owner. No, give me back my Lucky. Kevin, get down here, the man screamed, trying to snatch the dog's leash while yelling up the stairwell. A stampede of footsteps echoed from the emergency stairs. Ow, my ass. A series of pained cries rang out. We all went to the stairwell to see Kevin and his relatives sprawled out on the landing, clutching their feet, hands, and buttocks, all of which were now studded with thumbtacks. These were the very thumbtacks Leo had collected, now returned to their rightful owners. While I had been distracting the dog's owner, Leo, hiding on the 6th floor, had snuck up to the landing between the 7th and 8th floors. There, he had mimicked Kevin's brother-in-law, scattering the thumbtacks across the steps. I knew that when they heard the commotion, they would take the stairs. It was much faster than waiting for the elevator. My plan had worked perfectly. The thumbtacks that had pierced my foot were now piercing them. The police reviewed the security footage again. Don't you dare make false accusations, I said, parroting Kevin's earlier words back at him. My cousin was just passing through. The thumbtacks must have accidentally fallen out of his pocket. The look on Kevin's face was priceless. The police gave Leo a lecture, mainly advising a mentally ill person not to carry around so many dangerous objects. Leo nodded earnestly, looking as innocent as a schoolboy. After the police left, Kevin and his relatives limped away. But my revenge was just getting started. I stayed up all night, patiently winning over the dog with treats and affection. Finally, I had replaced his former master in his heart. Standing in the 8th floor stairwell, I gave the command, Go on, Lucky, get him. A few minutes later, a chorus of curses erupted from apartment 801. Oh God, it stinks. Arg. I stepped in it. My phone buzzed with a message from Kevin. Did you send Lucky to do this? I replied with his own words, I don't own a dog. Lucky was given to my friend. It was probably some stray that has a grudge against you. Stop trying to pin everything on me. The feeling of satisfaction was sublime. I turned on Do Not Disturb and went to bed. The next morning, Leo shook me awake. Chloe, look. He handed me his phone. I was a #1 trending topic on the local news feed. Following up on the slander at my school, Kevin, posing as a concerned neighbor, had blasted my story all over the internet. He claimed I was having affairs with multiple men. His relatives then jumped in, pretending to be jilted sugar daddies, calling me a gold digger who scammed them out of their money. They claimed the only way I could afford a luxury condo and a nice car was by juggling several wealthy men. I just smiled coldly. It's 2024, and their methods were still this primitive. They thought the best way to destroy a woman was to shame her, to make her too embarrassed to show her face. For a mature woman, they were nothing but clowns. I calmly took screenshots. Over 30,000 shares and comments. That was definitely enough for a lawsuit. After saving the evidence, I called a friend. I need you to dig up everything you can on this family. No problem. You'll have it in 6 hours, he replied without hesitation. With that taken care of, I went with Leo to pick up a package from the building's mailroom. When we got there, we found my package had already been taken. A quick check of the security footage showed one of Kevin's relatives walking off with it. It wasn't anything valuable, but the sheer pettiness of their actions was infuriating. On the way back to the apartment, we passed a group of neighbors chatting excitedly. The moment they saw me, their voices dropped to a whisper. I could still hear snippets. That's her. She looks so proper, but who knew, right? You can't judge a book by its cover. I actually thought she was a good person when she stood up to the Millers, but I guess they're all the same. Leo's fists clenched, and he started to march over to them. Oh my God, here he comes. Her crazy brother is about to lose it. Honestly, a high-end building like this shouldn't even allow mentally ill people to live here. Let's go complain to management. Don't you come near us. I'll call the police. I grabbed Leo's arm. This was not the time to give them any ammunition. At the elevator, we ran into Sarah. Chloe, I believe you, she said fiercely. That family is just evil. Is there really nothing we can do? There are things we can do, I said, but I can't do it alone. I'll help, she said instantly. And there are others in the building who can't stand them either. Sarah added me to a small, private group chat. It was filled with people who had been bullied by the Millers. We quickly formed a consensus. It was time to drive them out of our building for good. Sarah told me that Kevin's son, Kyle, the one getting married, had repeatedly leered at her and sent her creepy, greasy messages on social media. The resident in 1201 told me that Karen had once physically snatched a box of expensive live crabs right out of her hands in the lobby. The resident in 502 told me that Kevin, who didn't have a parking spot, constantly parked in his, ignoring all calls and requests to move his car. Listening to all their insane stories, I decided on a multi-pronged attack. I went online and ordered a container of live American cockroaches, the huge flying kind they call palmetto bugs down south. I bought 200 of them. Then, I stood by the elevators and made a loud phone call. Hello? Yes, that package is extremely important to me. Please make sure it's delivered on time. I heard the faint sound of a door opening and closing upstairs. I knew the bait had been taken. Sure enough, the moment the package was delivered to the mailroom, Kevin snatched it. Leo and I followed at a distance. 5 minutes later, a blood-curdling scream echoed from their apartment. What are these things? Leo and I shared a smirk and quietly went back to my apartment. The entire Miller clan and their relatives came stampeding out of their apartment like refugees, swarming my door and demanding an explanation. I didn't humor them. I just called the police. When the officers arrived, I presented the mailroom security footage and my online receipt, demanding that the Millers compensate me for the stolen property. Are you insane? Why would you buy cockroaches? Kevin shrieked. Because I felt like it. Is there a law against buying cockroaches? I shot back. Now, about that compensation. That'll be $3,000. Are you kidding me? Were they made of gold? You're not getting a dime. Kevin refused flatly. Just a reminder, sir, one of the officers interjected. If you refuse to pay for the stolen goods, we can arrest you for theft. At this value, that's a felony. You could be looking at a few years in prison. My hero, Kevin finally caved, reluctantly transferring me the money. He looked like he'd just watched his own mother die. Unwilling to spend money on a hotel, their family of a dozen people decided to brave it and stay in their infested apartment. The thought of them battling 200 flying cockroaches brought a level of peace and joy to my soul that no therapy ever could. After the police left, the construction crew I'd hired arrived. I had them erect a heavy-duty steel fence, completely enclosing Kevin's car in its parking spot. Soon, my phone buzzed with a message from Kevin. Are you trying to kill me? You welded me into my parking spot. I have to leave right now. I ignored him. I finished my skincare routine, made a cup of tea, and then casually replied, Sorry, was busy. Just saw this. I just leased that parking spot. I'm legally allowed to do whatever I want in my own spot. By the way, the fence cost $2,000. F. Another 60-second voice memo of pure rage. It was my own family's construction company, so the price was whatever I said it was. From the sound of a crash a few minutes later, he must have rammed his way out. Oh look, the police were here again, and Kevin was paying me another $2,000 for property damage. Right in front of him, I Venmo'd the $2,000 to the neighbor from 502, whose spot he always stole. Kevin looked like he was about to swallow his own teeth. And we were just getting started. Kevin was quiet for a full day after that. Then, 2 mornings later, Sarah and I were waiting in the lobby when Karen came down. As she approached, I deliberately handed a paper bag to Sarah. "Sarah, this is for you," I said in a loud, clear voice. I had these special mushrooms shipped all the way from a foraging trip in Oregon. They're a rare variety, cost me a fortune. Karen's eyes lit up like a slot machine. After Sarah and I parted ways, I secretly followed Karen. Just as I expected, she cornered Sarah by the mailboxes. "Sarah, honey, you shouldn't be so selfish. Good things are meant to be shared," Karen cooed. "Besides, mushrooms aren't very filling. Tell you what, I'll trade you this package of chicken for them." Before Sarah could even respond, Karen snatched the bag of mushrooms and shoved the chicken into her hands. Then she scurried away as fast as her legs could carry her, completely ignoring Sarah calling after her. "Wait, those aren't for eating." I hit the stop recording button on my phone and went back to my apartment with Sarah to wait for the show to begin. The mushrooms were stolen in the morning. The lunch was eaten at noon. The ambulances arrived in the afternoon. I had specifically chosen a variety that wasn't lethal but acted as a powerful, fast-acting laxative. According to the paramedics, 12 people in that apartment had explosive results. Many didn't even make it to the bathroom. The first responders were gagging when they entered the apartment. Even the ambulance wasn't spared from the fecal Jackson Pollock painting that ensued. "I'm calling the police. It was that little bitch downstairs." Even in his weakened, dehydrated state, Kevin was determined to have me arrested. However, with the video evidence of Karen robbing Sarah, it was Karen who was facing charges of theft. Kevin had to pay me another $1,000 in damages. "Only $1,000? Come on, you demand a $1,000 gift for a wedding, but you're complaining about this? It's pocket change," I taunted. As he transferred the money, his hand trembled so violently I thought he was going to have a stroke. After they were discharged from the hospital, the Miller clan started actively avoiding me, taking a different elevator if they saw me coming. They were quiet for several days. Then, 2 days before the wedding, they all showed up at my door. "Chloe, let's let bygones be bygones," Kevin said, trying to sound conciliatory. "We've come to formally apologize. And, look, we're much older than you. We're elders. And since we've apologized, we can put all this behind us." As a gesture of goodwill, Karen added, "You should be a bridesmaid. And I hear you don't have a boyfriend right now. My nephew here is a great catch." I glanced at the nephew. He had to be at least 35, was built like a propane tank, and had eyes smaller than grains of rice. The sight of him nearly made me gag. "Let's be honest," Karen continued, her tone shifting. "With your reputation and that little psycho you hang out with, my nephew is willing to overlook all of that. All he asks is that you settle down, cook and clean for him every day. And I have to say," Kevin chimed in, "for a girl with your history, you should be grateful anyone is willing to take you." I sensed my opportunity. It was time to modify the original plan. "You know, you have a point," I said, letting my voice soften. "Now, it's the modern era, so of course we don't expect a dowry from our side," Karen said, pressing her advantage. "But tradition dictates that the bride's side provides a trousseau. How much would be appropriate?" I asked, forcing myself not to recoil. Seeing me take the bait, their faces lit up. "Oh, we're reasonable people. Just a token amount. The apartment you're living in now, of course, that would be part of it. You'll need to transfer the deed to him immediately after the wedding. A man feels embarrassed without a house in his name. For cash, let's say, $1,001. It symbolizes your 1 in a million. And you'll need to buy him a new car, of course. Yours is a bit dated." "Oh, and I hear you're an only child," Kevin added. "After you marry my nephew, your family will finally have a male heir. Someone to inherit your parents' assets." So that was their endgame. They saw me as their personal genie in a bottle. "Okay," I said, nodding. "Excellent. We'll be here to pick you up on the big day," Kevin said, beaming. After they left, Leo looked at me, horrified. "Chloe, I really want to go out there and punch them. I feel like they're the ones who need to be institutionalized, not me." I just smiled, a plan forming in my mind. "Patience, Leo, patience. Have you ever heard the saying, whom the gods would destroy, they first make mad?" On the day of the wedding, I, along with all the other neighbors from our little resistance group, attended. During the pre-ceremony photos, the propane tank nephew tried to grope me several times. I managed to deflect his advances by promising him that we could do whatever he wanted after we were married. The ceremony began, the officiant's voice booming through the hall. And now, let's watch a video celebrating the bride and groom's journey of love. Huh? What is this? I can't believe that family are those kinds of people. Oh, that poor bride. The hall erupted in gasps and whispers. The video playing on a massive screen was not the sentimental montage everyone expected. It was the one I had carefully edited. It contained footage of all the Miller's scams and abuses, but the crown jewel was a collection of Kyle's sleazy text messages to Sarah. In response to Sarah's non-committal, one-word replies, Kyle had sent a flood of incriminating messages. Hey girl, thinking about you. Babe, you're the only one for me. I'm just faking it with this other woman. Her family has some money, that's all. Babe, as soon as I secure the assets, I'm leaving her and coming for you. The bride's face went white with fury. She slapped Kyle across the face so hard it echoed. Her relatives, particularly her 3 hulking brothers, immediately swarmed the stage and started beating Kyle to a pulp. The scene devolved into chaos. The Miller family, finally realizing what was happening, turned their attention to us. It was you little bitch. Karen screamed, charging toward me. You're the one who's not decent. You're trying to ruin my family because you couldn't have them. Everyone look, this whore is faking videos because she's jealous. Even at this stage, they were trying to slander me. You little slut, Karen shrieked, having fully bought into her own delusion. You think you can live in our building without sleeping your way there? My nephew was willing to take you, and you repay him with this? I'll rip your face off. She lunged at me. Leo had been patient for days. He wasn't going to be patient anymore. He intercepted her, grabbing her by the shoulders and landing 2 sharp slaps across her face. You will not slander my cousin, he roared. Seeing Karen get hit, the rest of the Miller clan lost their minds. They rushed forward to attack Leo. But Leo was a force of nature, a god of war. In less than a minute, every single one of them was on the ground. It was over, and it was glorious. In the aftermath, Kevin called the police, trying to have me and Leo arrested. I countered by presenting all the evidence I had collected of his slander, harassment, and extortion. In the end, he was the one who left in handcuffs. The case was clear-cut, the evidence irrefutable, and it was quickly sent to the prosecutor. Before the trial, Karen relentlessly hounded me, begging me to sign a letter of forgiveness. Chloe, please. We know we were wrong. We're so sorry. She even threw herself to her knees in front of me in a crowded plaza, trying to publicly shame me into compliance. Unfortunately for her, if I don't subscribe to your version of morality, you can't blackmail me with it. You weren't sorry when you were spreading rumors and got me suspended from my job, I said calmly. You weren't sorry when you were trying to marry me off to your nephew to steal my property. You don't know you were wrong. You're just scared. With that, I turned and walked away, Leo by my side. The court found Kevin Miller guilty of defamation and harassment and sentenced him to 3 years in prison. The propane tank nephew tried to bother me once more, but Leo physically threw him out of our building's lobby. He never came back, instead directing all his rage at the rest of the Miller clan. The funniest part? The apartment in 801 wasn't even theirs. They had heard about a luxury condo building full of wealthy people and had schemed their way into renting a unit, planning to grift their way to riches. They just had the misfortune of moving in below me. Truly, you reap what you sow. The landlord evicted them and filed a civil suit for damages. Their reputations were ruined, and they all lost their jobs. They couldn't even go back to their hometown because the nephew told everyone that they were the reason he lost a rich, beautiful wife, and he would beat them on sight. They vanished from my world, and I never found out where they went. Chloe, if anything like this ever happens again, you have to call me, Leo said, a little disappointed it was all over, as I dropped him off at the start of the new school year. Definitely, I promised with a smile. After all, when it comes to people like that, I just can't tolerate them. Not one little bit.